We have a big week coming up for Battlefield 5 with the release of Update 6.0 and the launch of Chapter 6. Tank body customization is finally coming to Battlefield 5, and turmoil at DICE, the head of Battlefield 5 multiplayer development, is leaving the company, only adding to speculation surrounding a leadership crisis at the studio. This is your week on the Battlefield. Welcome to this episode of This Week on the Battlefield, the show where we cover news, updates, the community, and so much more all around the Battlefield franchise. As per usual, there's much to cover, so let's jump straight into it. Our main news story this week is definitely the upcoming launch of Chapter 6 and the 6.0 update coming to Battlefield 5 next week. As to specifics then, Monday, February 3rd, we'll be getting the full patch notes for the upcoming update, followed by the release of it the day after on Tuesday the 4th. Wednesday, DICE will be providing us with some details on the first Tides of War challenge for the chapter in typical fashion a day before its release, as on Thursday, Chapter 6 will begin with Solomon Islands being available for all players to play on day 1 of the chapter. As regards further content in the update, we have 3 new weapons, the Type 11 LMG, Model 37 shotgun and M2 carbine, as well as 2 new gadgets in the Lunge Mine and M1A1 bazooka, all of which will be unlocked via chapter rank rewards as soon as you reach the requisite level of chapter progression. As to finer details on the 6.0 update, besides the introduction of the announced new content and making some changes to vehicle and map balance, we know little so far. Additional weapon balance changes in a partial revert of the 5.2 update won't however be coming as part of this update, as those are currently scheduled for the next patch with a yet unannounced release date. If you want further details and analysis of the trailer published this week, you'll find my video on the subject matter linked in the usual places. In other news this week, as typical between chapters, things have been relatively quiet in terms of new additions to the game, with the only one worth mentioning being the weekly playlist, Bombastic Fantastic, with mostly vehicle-focused maps featuring Conquest and Breakthrough on Wake Island, Pacific Storm, Iwo Jima, Panzerstorm, and Al Sudan. Far more interesting is what is coming up for Battlefield 5 and Chapter 6, and while we already got details on what to expect from the start of the chapter and the 6.0 update, it is the 6.2 patch that has got many Battlefield fans, frankly, most excited. And thus, in our ever popular and ever evolving, always relevant soon TM category of news, we start off with tank body customization. Yes, it is finally, supposedly, probably supposed to come to Battlefield 5 and currently is scheduled as part of the upcoming 6.2 update. The soon TM tank found at the end of the Into the Jungle Chapter 6 trailer has been confirmed as being an indication of that. Alongside that, 6.2 will feature most prominently another large-scale weapon balance change, with fire rates and recoil largely returning to values identical or similar to those found just after the Pacific launched. Medium and long-range damage should also see substantial changes, though DICE has clarified here that this is no full revert and we thus won't see long-range weapon performance identical to that we had previous to the 5.2 time to kill changes. Full details as to the content of the patch, as well as its release date, are currently still under wraps, though community manager Part Welsh has confirmed that they will be sharing more information on the 6.2 update shortly after the 6.0 update goes live, which is currently scheduled for Tuesday. In temporal goodness, as always of course to be taken with a generous helping of salt given the data mining origins of the provided information, we have speculated skins for the Chapter 6 Premium Booster Pack announced this week for Battlefield 5. As per DICE announcement, the booster pack will include 2,000 boins, 3 special assignments, a 20% chapter XP boost, 6 tier catch-ups, 2 soldier outfits in the Overlord and Homeland Guardian kits, the glided weapon skin for the M1 Grand, Type 99 Arisaka, Type 97 and M3 Grease Gum, and the Spectacle paint job for the Corsair. Temporal reckons he has found most of that content in the files already, with the gold leaf skin corresponding to the glided weapon set already in the files and demoed here on the Arizaka and Type 97. The soldier skins are accordingly named already in the files as well, and the icon for the Spectacle paint job gives at least a rough indication as to what colors it likely will feature. We also have from him the German airborne crew in the game for some time now, so maybe we will eventually finally get to jump out of an airplane as a German soldier when playing as the German faction on Grand Operations. Over in our community news then, we have another big topic of discussion this week, the possible crisis and general state of the DICE development studio. While rumors surrounding changes to DICE's Stockholm leadership team are largely untrue and Oscar Gabrielsson continues to be the head of the studio, DICE did lose their head multiplayer producer on Battlefield 5, David Sirlund, this week, joining a long list of senior experienced team members to leave DICE, especially on the Battlefield team, over the past year or two. While there is no official reason being provided by David as to why he chose to embark on a new challenge at a different studio, reading between the lines of his comments and knowing what his priorities are as a dev really does speak for itself. David is largely credited with being one of the key players behind the Battlefield 4 comeback story and openly admitted to the lackluster state of Battlefield 5 on multiple occasions. He prioritizes quality of life improvements and was a known supporter of the CTE both in Battlefield 4 and, of course, more notably in Battlefield 5. Now, a lot of those priorities have not really been set in Battlefield 5 and we have yet to see a CTE. In many ways it looks like he wasn't given the freedom to operate Battlefield 5 in the way he thought would allow him to fix the game from the higher ups and thus decided he better just leave. Quoting a statement by Sirlund himself, found as comment on his goodbye post linked below in the description, if things were completely up to me, they would surely be different. This in regards to DICE's priorities and specifically the issue of Team Balancer. Either way, he surely will be missed as a long-standing member of the development team and community as a whole. In general, as to the high staff turnaround at the moment at DICE and large amount of experienced developers and team leaders leaving, there is of course conflicting reports. If you are to believe the likes of Niklas Astrang, senior designer at DICE and there for almost 18 years now, this is the natural flow of business and the result of multiple large game studios recently opening up in Stockholm and creating competition. Both Ubisoft and Epic Games now have major offices in the city. At the same time, there is a wealth of employer reviews online regarding the state of absolute chaos at DICE and the misguided, often reckless style of top-down management, ignorant of any critical community feedback, even when overwhelming, which does of course sound rather familiar, at least as regards Battlefield 5. Either way, I'll have links to both Niklas's post, David Sirlund's post, and the Glassdoor employer reviews in the description. Feel free to make up your own mind on the matter. What definitely seems to be true, however, for whatever reason, DICE is in crisis and the launch of Battlefront 2 and the entirety of Battlefield 5's life cycle really do speak to that. Over in our Only in Battlefield moments then, we start this week off with Get Memed on LOL, who's going to jump out of his plane and capture the objective for his team just in time. Remember, if you want to have your own clips featured on the show, check out the description for details on how to submit your own clips. Next up, we have Military Man 12 and this great sniper shot. And lastly today, we have a truly skilled player in 1chex tearing through the enemies on Alpha Objective breakthrough on Fjell before the 5.2 gameplay changes went live. But with that, coming to the end of this week's episode then. If you enjoyed the show, found it interesting or entertaining, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, share, and of course hit me up with your feedback, suggestions, and opinions down below in the comments or over on Twitter. With that being said, however, I'd like to thank you very much for watching and hope to see you in the next episode this week on the Battlefield.